good opportunity to show you guys exactly what it is that River's Edge offers. They're more than just like a tree stand brand. So some of these things I have, some I don't. This is, I actually believe this was new last year. It's the lockdown ladder stand. And last year, I think it was just the lockdown that had this new feature. But this year, River's Edge integrated everything into all of their old models. So essentially, what makes these cool is you can lock them down directly on the ground before you ever even climb in it. So it makes it a lot safer, but it's pretty cool. You got your shooting rail integrated right here. Obviously, you can adjust it. Kick it out of your way if you don't want it. Foot rail also folds down in if you want it to.
What's the theory behind the flip-up door? Drive the four-wheeler in?
Yeah, dude, there's a lot of people that use these as four-wheeler garages out in the woods.
That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, just disabled hunters, hunting with kids. If you're filming, it's super nice to get your stuff in and out of there. You don't have to go through a little corner entry door.
No.
I mean, that's like that corner entry door is easy enough when you don't have a backpack and you're not wearing all this clothing and have a bow in your hand. Easy enough at shows for people to walk in and out of. But then when you're actually in the woods, I love this.
You could put another chair in here, so you can do 2 chairs. So that we can put 1 chair in the center, or there's two mounting locations to actually put 2 pivoting chairs. And the shooting rail is adjustable. We got it up as high as it goes right now, but it's just snap buttons, and you can lower it so the person can get that exactly the right rest. See anything?
Nope.
Okay.
But I could wait until they get out there.
Yeah, we can just leave this here. I guarantee you we'd kill a buck out of this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I promise you.
100%.
Die right in them beams over there.
It's extremely strong. It's extremely waterproof. You can just tell the difference. Like, feel it. Nothing's gonna happen to that over time. It holds up extremely well. Some other differences. Obviously, this is 8 feet. We sell a kit to take it up to 12 feet if you want. So you can buy a 4-foot extension for this thing. So that's been our solution. Some guys don't want them to be very tall, right? You just want to get up off the ground above the above the line of sight of the deer, or depending on terrain. And then other guys, maybe if you're hunting in the timber with it, you actually want to get up high. So our solution is we sell this as is, and then you can buy a 4-foot extension for it.
And that doesn't drop the weight capacity.
Right. It's
been a big thing at shows too. Is well, if I raise it up, does it drop my weight capacity? And the answer is no on that.
And this is 800 pounds.
Yep.
This is 800 pounds on this. What it is it's actually PVC reinforced with polyester threads inside. So it's reinforced PVC is effectively.
That's actually a door, which is
correct. So that's
way better.
Right. So that's one of the other big differences. It has a swinging door.
Yeah.
So that you're not, in the.
One more time for the camera.
About as much as vinyl siding. You put a brand new piece up to it 5 years later, you can maybe tell the difference, maybe, depending if it was in direct sunlight, but it fades very, very little. It's 2 layers of fabric. So instead of having a black coating on the inside, it's actually 2 layers, and the waterproof membrane is sandwiched in between. So the entire blind is waterproof. We have a separate waterproof cover so everything's seam sealed. So if you zip, and then you got covers over all the zippers. You zip shut all your windows, and you close it up for the year or whatever, and nothing gets in there. It stays nice and quiet. But the cool thing about this is it still works pretty much like a regular hub blind. This disc is loose, so you want to thread this disc down. So these are just spring-loaded poles, just like a pogo stick. Mike, have you ever hopped around on a pogo stick?
I have. I'm actually a pogo stick. I was the '84 Olympic alternate.
Okay. So you tighten that down as much as possible. You got to make sure that the pole ends are outside the disc, because that's actually what keeps it from being able to push in anymore. Yeah. Then once it's
Dude, I'm telling you, a hanging tethered like seat in there.
Yep. But so this is, it's a full, once it's all assembled like this, it's a fully adjustable frame pack. So just like a Western style frame pack, the actual stand itself becomes the frame. Get to the base of your tree, you unsnap these, and then you can take your shooting rails off, or your climbing rails off. So they fit around the pack. The rest of this pack is just a completely open bag, right? So you can fit an entire set of winter bibs in there.
Bibs and jacket I fit in there before, just stuff.
Both?
Yep, both of them in there.
Really?
Yep, you don't get a lot up top, but you can get both of them in there.
So you can fit quite a bit of stuff in there. You also have gear bags on the side. I usually throw my harness in there, and then like my climbing rope, also like my bow holder. So these snap together, nest together, if you will. They just have these little clips on them.
Nest together.
Yep, that's where the name came from. So
Thanks, we didn't pick up on that.
How much do those weigh?
these weigh just under 2 pounds each.
Okay.
So
They're so light.
take one down, pass it around.
Solid. Quiet. They're really, really quiet.
I'm not interested.
All right, I'm back from pro days. That was a lot of fun. And now it's time to put everything to use. I'm gonna head to the Lease. I need an oil change first, so I gotta go do that. Okay, we made it. I want to talk to you guys about how I break up my properties and kind of like how I visualize and look at them to, I mean, kind of do anything, but like hang stands, specifically hunting them. I mean, put cameras out, places to avoid, all the things. There's a lot that goes into properties and hunting deer effectively. So it can be overwhelming, especially if you have a larger chunk. And so you're kind of just like looking at your property and you're like, okay, like this is overwhelming. Where do I begin? And even if you have a smaller piece, that can also be overwhelming because then you're really like limited on what you can do. So what I like to do, and I'm curious if you guys have ever heard any sort of concept like this, you'll have to let me know, but I've never heard it broken down in this way, but this is just how I mentally look at things. I look at things kind of like a puzzle, but instead of having like little zigzagged pieces, I kind of try to look at it like a grid almost. Because if you think about like weather, for example, and wind, deer move certain spots based on what they can smell and what they can see and all of the factors that keep them alive. So if you have, for example, a piece of timber that runs perfectly north to south and it's, let's just say, early October and you're getting a lot of south winds, that piece is going to hunt differently for you than what it would in, say, mid-November when you got a lot of north winds and northwest winds, right? So the deer that might be living there, he might still be there, but how you approach that piece and how you hunt it should be very different from September or October to, you know, November, December. And obviously other factors play into that, you know, if you have crops in the field or certain types of crops in the field, like there's a lot of variables. But as an example, this is just what I'm personally working with this year. The deer I was trying to hunt last year, he's very much on the south end of the property, very similar to what Swoops was doing. He runs the south finger that kind of leads up into our main timber. So the way I have it laid out is I have a stand kind of in that corner right where that finger meets the big timber. And the big timber, I don't touch. I don't go in there at all. I don't hunt it. I shed hunt it, but that's about the only time I'll go in there, maybe turkey season. But for deer, I don't hunt it, specifically to give them kind of a sanctuary to live and bed in and want to feel safe. So that way they feel like they can comfortably stay on the property. So that means I'm hunting the edges of everything around that or any kind of fingers that branch out. So this deer that I was hunting last year specifically liked the south end of that. So if I break that into a grid and think, okay, so our season opens October 1. So if I'm hunting him October 1, we're probably going to have a lot of south winds. Pressure's going to probably be relatively steady. It's not going to be any kind of big fronts coming in until maybe mid-October. So, you know, you kind of don't necessarily have to pay attention to pressure, but, you know, your winds, a lot of south wind, which is going to be blowing to that bedding. Now, I will say there's also bedding on the south, like on the neighbors, so there's a chance he beds over there too, and this is where, you know, sometimes like observation sits come in handy, or even trail camera information comes in handy, because you can see what direction they're coming to and from without being invasive. But for last year, he was bedding on the south mostly, and he would walk north, which made a lot of sense, because any kind of winds that were coming either south or north, but a lot of west, because let's be realistic, we don't ever get like true north or true south all the time. It's usually a lot of west in it. So any kind of southwest or northwest winds were always like really good for him, because he would walk the east side of that finger and scent check any kind of winds that were blowing that way. So that's kind of how I broke it in the grid. So we got the grid that's doing this. The finger fits perfectly north to south, and my wind is blowing like this. Just depends on the day, but so north and south is where he's walking. East and west is the direction that the wind is blowing. So you have to kind of think, okay, if this is where he's at, this is the wind I'm dealing with, where can I sit that is going to be appropriate, where he's not going to wind me, but I'm also going to be able to see him and get a shot, right? And as archery hunters, we all know that it's like a game of inches. Like, you could be a few feet off and you're too far. So, obviously it's different if you're gun hunting. You can be like, okay, I can sit relatively here and shoot that direction. But for anybody who bow hunts, you know, it's like, okay, where is that real sweet spot? So for me, it was in the corner of the big timber, because I kind of watched him a few times and he just never went totally up in the big timber. He always wanted to cut down in and kind of go out across into the wind. So any kind of west we were getting, he'd go into it. And then he'd cross the ditch and go, I don't know where he ended up after that, but I knew at some point he was going to kind of be on that east side and then cut west. So for me, it was like, okay, well, any kind of north wind is risky because that's kind of where he's coming from, but any kind of south wind or straight west even would be perfect, because based on my prior, you know, sightings and even trail camera footage, he really wasn't likely to go downwind of me if I had any kind of west or southwest wind. So that's kind of how I hunted him. Any kind of south or west, I would sit there, and I did. I had 2 really good encounters with him last year, and I almost shot him, but I didn't, because the scrape is at 36 yards, so it's just far enough where it's like pushing the boundary of my comfort zone. Like 40 is my max on a whitetail, so I didn't want to shoot him because I thought there was a chance he might cut closer to me, but he never did. So then the next time I go in there, I planned on shooting him at 36, but he never gave me a shot. So needless to say, he's still out there, hopefully. I haven't had a picture, but I do believe he's still alive. And so I'm gonna kind of go pay attention to that spot a little bit and make sure it's cleared out and ready to go. And then I also have a deer who's more of a floater. He's less predictable. He's literally on basically every camera I have on the entire property. It's a large enough area that he shouldn't be floating around as much as he does, but he's one that just likes to travel. So he's gonna be a little bit harder to get on. So I'm gonna have to go prep some spots. But anyway, I kind of just wanted to make a little bit of a visual for you guys and just break it down. Like, if you feel overwhelmed about a spot, literally like make some lines and think, okay, if he's in these particular, you know, cubes, for example, where can I sit that my wind is not going to hit one of those cubes, but I can also shoot towards it, right? So you kind of have to make like a little map for yourself, and that's why I love Onyx, because you can really set pins, you can set your wind direction, and you can really like draw the picture out, right? So obviously the first step is finding the deer and figuring out where you want to hunt. Now, I'm specifically talking about deer that I'm hunting, like if I'm hunting one deer, like if I'm generally hunting and just happen to be in the area, shoot whatever, that might be a little bit different because you're not trying to be specific and hone in on one deer. So you might kind of sit in more of a general, like just a high traffic area versus like a spot that this one particular deer works. So you kind of have to tweak it obviously to what your exact situation is, but you know, as I said last time we put cameras out, I've been getting a bunch of good pictures of some really good bucks. So I'm trying to now set stands and prep locations for potentially hunting some of these deer, right? So, you know, that's kind of like our next, I guess, transition into the lease series is we put cameras out. I'm starting to get inventory. It also helps that I know this property pretty well, and I have history with a lot of these deer, so I at least kind of have some historical knowledge to go off of on how to hunt these guys, because if you really start focusing on one deer and paying attention to that deer, you'll learn their patterns. Like, they're all unique and they all have their own quirks and things that they do and like to do, but like if you really focus on that deer, like you can kind of learn them. And I think, in my opinion, that helps to have that knowledge because they're easier to hunt that way. So, I know that was kind of a lot, but I really wanted to give you guys that kind of visual before I go out and start showing you in the field. Simply so you can kind of think, okay, how do I apply this to my property, right? So, it's getting a little toasty in here, so I think we're going to hop out and get started. But if you guys have any further questions on the breakdown of that, I can try to answer them to the best of my ability, or maybe incorporate it in the next video. But it's what are we at? We're on August, almost the middle of August here, so it's time to really start honing in on stuff. I have an elk hunt in September, so I really can't put anything off. I got to do it this month. And we're gonna start doing food plots for the next video, I think. So I'm gonna get some stands out, or at the very least prep some trees. I might prep trees first, because there's a few spots I'm not entirely sure exactly where I want to sit. Maybe hang another camera or two. Just kind of some last minute stuff before I really finalize my spots, but I'll talk you guys through it. I know this was long-winded and I apologize for that, but I do want to be really detailed in these videos specifically because I want you guys to be able to apply what I'm saying to your property. So, grid it out. Don't look at the big picture, kind of break it down, and I think that is a lot more useful because it's way easier to visualize, way less overwhelming. All right, let's go.